Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome to 90 Day Fiancé latest news. Adnan Abdel Fattah had not scheduled himself to be driving that late. Dinner was meant to be his home. Tigerlily Taylor was waiting with his preferred meal. A simple but meaningful gesture she usually made to remind him that they still had tiny events of normalcy even in the tumult of their fast-paced public life. But the conference had run long. 1 minute he was looking at his watch, pledging himself he would be out the door in 5 minutes, and the next an hour had vanished. When he texted Tigerlily at last, her response was brief but friendly. "Drive safely, love." Just a few minutes later, he never could have guessed how much those words would repeat in his head. The accident happened quickly enough that his brain battled to catch up even now. He was switching lanes 1 minute, and then too quickly, too close a pair of headlights came barreling toward him. White flash. A tire squeal. The thunderous sound of metal crumpling against other metal. Then quiet. Time seemed to stop and start. His ears sounded. His vision faded. His arm throbbed with a searing, merciless agony as it twisted oddly against the driving wheel. Then arrived the voices, first far off then progressively close. Someone pounding on the automobile window. Bells. A frigid surge of air as the door was forced open. "Sir, can you hear me?" Through the haze, the voice of a paramedic emerged. Adnan tried to talk, but only a rough sound came out of his mouth. His head lolled to the side, and through the broken glass he saw the ambulance's lights flashing like furious stars. But his only thought was Tigerlily. "Driven safe, love," he recalled her text. Then everything darkened. The healthcare facility, the environment was calmer, but no less terrible the next time Adnan opened his eyes. He was not familiar with the white ceiling above him, and the machine beeping next to his bed felt louder than it ought to be. His shoulder felt like a vice, his left arm confined in a sling. When he saw her, none of it counted, though. Tigerlily is a term used in she was at his bedside, her small form shaking and her face covered in tears. Her usually brilliant green eyes were muted by worry and tiredness. Strands of blonde hair hung on her face covered in tears. Her little, soft palm was wrapped around his uninjured hand and squeezed like releasing pressure may lead him to vanish. "Tiger," Adnan spoke with a raspy, hardly audible whisper. Her head went up. "Adnan," she said, the sound of his name a mixture of relief and devastation. Her lower lip twitched, and fresh tears flowed over. "Oh my God, you woke up." Under the weight of his suffering, he tried to grin, the same light-hearted smile he usually offered her. Though the sight in her eyes indicated it was too late for that, he mumbled, "Not meant to scare you." Then the doctor arrived, a middle-aged woman with a polite but businesslike manner. She turned over Adnan's chart, her voice quiet and consistent. Too constant, as if she were trying to balance the raw intensity of the room. "You have a fractured arm and some shoulder trauma," Mr. Abdel Fattah said. "The good news is spinal injuries and internal damage are not present. Rest and physical treatment will help you completely in 4 weeks or so." Tigerlily's voice fractured. "Are you absolutely sure? He is so much in suffering." The doctor looked less stern. "The suffering is expected, but he is not in risk." She turned to look at Adnan. "Right now, the most important thing is to rest." Adnan sought to lighten the situation, his normal defense strategy. "Guess I get a month of Tigerlily waiting on me hand and foot," he said weakly. Tigerlily laughed brokenly, not because it was humorous, but more because it was the only way she could prevent tears once more. She mumbled, removing a tear from her face, "You're impossible." Still, the dread persisted. Tigerlily couldn't get rid of the picture of him laying in the street, blood running down his face, his body stiff and broken, regardless of how often the doctor swore he was all right. That memory had become ingrained in her consciousness and would not be going very soon. The fallout, not the respite Tigerlily was hoping for as she left the hospital. Cameras went on as Adnan left. Screamers from reporters, ever-yearning drama, the reporters rushed like vultures. "Adnan, after the collision, how do you feel? Tigerlily, were you with him at the time? What is next for you both?" Adnan maintained a stiff but polite smile. His voice firm despite the pain chewing at his shoulder, he added, "I'm doing better, just focused on healing." Standing defensively close to him, Tigerlily talked with more edge. "Right now, Adnan's recovery is all that counts," she stated. "That is our only area of concentration." Her hand never left his back as they headed to the car. This was a quiet assurance she was there, and she wasn't letting go. The drive home was shockingly silent. White as Tigerlily grabbed the steering wheel, flinching each time a car turned too near to their lane. She kept staring at Adnan out of the side of her eye, observing how his fingers gently curved whenever the pain in his arm burst out. Her heart tightened at every turn. Suppose the accident had been more severe. Had he not opened his eyes on the ground? Suppose tonight she was driving home by herself? Her hands were shaking as the ideas tore at her and pulled into the driveway. Home, their house, once a cozy and reassuring haven, was too silent now. Adnan grumbled as he settled on the couch, his damaged arm gently raised on pillows. Tigerlily, hovering close fluffed cushions, changed the blanket, refilled a glass of water he hadn't even touched. "Tiger," Adnan murmured quietly. She answered nothing. She just continued moving, doing anything to divert herself. Again he said, firm this time, "Tigerlily." She came to stop at last. "Come here," he said in a whisper. She sat next him slowly, her arms tightly across her chest, as if she were keeping herself together. Adnan's voice fractured. "Today, I realized how lucky I am." He drew a hard swallow. "I could have gone without everything. I could have let you go." Tigerlily's lips shook. "But you didn't," she said softly. "You're here." She let a tear slide down her cheek. "The only thing that counts is that." Adnan gently cleaned the tear away with his good hand, reaching over. He said quietly, "I'm not going anywhere." Her hand caught his and she squeezed it firmly. "Neither am I." Around them, the night became quiet. The only sound came from the gentle buzz of the metropolis outside. Two hearts damaged but not broken, recuperating together. And in the silence, they both came to see that love was about the evenings like these, when the world seemed too dark and each other was the only thing keeping them together, not merely about the big events. They were still standing even after the crisis and even after the anxiety. Overall, and that was all that really counted. This gossip is over. If you liked the video, then give your opinion in the comment box and stay with us by subscribing the channel. Thank you.